Yes, how are we all? I hope all is well. My name is Sachin, and this is the Total Cricket Podcast, episode 37. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the only 2020 international between England and the West Indies, so let's get right into it. This was a rematch of the World T20 final from last year, and once again, the West Indies came out on top, this time by 21 runs. England, they won the toss and elected to field. That is the done thing in 2020s these days. But the West Indies did a very good job in their innings 176 for 9 they made. Chris Gale and Evan Lewis at the top of the order, providing a lot of firepower, 40 and 51 they made respectively. The innings then did fall away after that stand. After 10 overs, the West Indies were on 106, but they only managed 73 in the back 10 overs. Rodman Powell, however, did provide a little bit of impetus to push them up to that very nice score with his cameo of 28 from 19. The English bowlers, it was a mixed bag. David Willey, Tom Curran, and Chris Jordan all went for runs, but Liam Plunkett and Adil Rashid both picked up 3 apiece, and they were the two that brought England back into the game in those middle overs. The English batting, they got off to a great start thanks to Alex Hales. He made 43 off 17, but once he got out, the wheels started to come off. They were looking good after the power play, England, 64 they made in that period, but then Joe Root and Owen Morgan, 2 key batsmen, went in quick succession. Joss Butler and Johnny Bairstow tried to repair the damage with 30 and 27 respectively, but then those two again got out in quick succession, and then the innings subsided pretty quickly as the run rate was becoming very steep. And the West Indian bowling, it was spearheaded by the captain, Carlos Brathwaite, with 3 for 20. Kesrick Williams also picked up 3. Sunil Narayan was miserly, 2 for 15 in his 4 overs. Ashley Nurse did a good job as well, 1 for 23 in 3 overs. The West Indies coming out victorious in this one, and they keep the bragging rights between these two teams in this format. Now, I'll begin by looking at the West Indies innings, and of course, we have to talk about Chris Gale and Evan Lewis. This has to be possibly the best opening partnership in 2020s, and it's only in its infancy, but so far we've seen that game against India, and now this game, this partnership looks scarily good. Chris Gale, yes, he's 37, yes, his back issues are catching up with him, he's on the decline, but if you bowl it in his arc, he's still going to send you out of the park. Evan Lewis, one of the rising stars in the format, he's the only man to have scored 2 2020 international hundreds. That's a good trivia fact. And he had a great CPL as well. He's certainly making a name for himself, is Evan Lewis. And these two, they can absolutely tear you apart in the power play. And that is exactly what they did. The English bowlers bowled it in that arc. They swung through the line beautifully, made great connections, and the ball was just flying to all parts of the ground. And that was the issue for England. David Willey, Chris Jordan, and Tom Curran were bowling it in their arcs. To a guy like Chris Gale especially, you can't just bowl it full half volley length. He's going to absolutely smash you. To Chris Gale, if you want to bowl full, try and bowl it wide of the off stump, wide Yorkers. But usually to Chris Gale, you want to be back of a length or short even, bounces, because he does find it a lot more difficult to score off shorter deliveries. And we know with Chris Gale, and Evan Lewis for that matter, these two players are not going to be looking for quick singles. For them, it's either going to be a boundary or a dot ball. So you have to stop those boundaries, build up dot balls, create pressure. And you can do that by keeping the ball out of their scoring arc. And that is what those 3 English bowlers failed to do. Rookie errors against these 2 batsmen. But then the West Indies batting did subside a bit after that excellent start. It looked like they would get 200, but things really fell away in the middle. Marlon Samuels, he's returned as well. He didn't make many. Chadwick Walton, another one who has impressed in the CPL recently, he came and went. Kieran Pollard, he came and went. But Rodman Powell, he was the guy who gave the innings a little bit of impetus when it was stalling and pushed them up to that 176 mark. 28 off 19. Rodman Powell is a talented cricketer, and a few CPLs ago, we saw him burst onto the scene, and he's been around the national side now for a year or two, but he hasn't been able to cement a place in the limited overs formats. But this is a good stepping stone for him. We haven't quite seen his full potential yet. but this was a glimpse of it. Really, really nice power from Rovman Powell, still a very young player, and he can mature and become something good in this middle order if he develops. So definitely the West Indies will be hoping that he can continue to impress. But apart from him, there was little resistance. Carlos Brathwaite, the captain in this format, Sunil Narain. We've seen Narain open the batting in the IPL and the CPL. He's a big hitter. Carlos Brathwaite, you all remember that World T20 final, but unfortunately they weren't able to get runs either. Ashley Nurse did provide some support to Powell. He got 13 of 12. So that West Indies batting lineup is very deep and it helped them in this one. At the halfway mark, you thought 176, it was going to be a close game. But I think England will be disappointed with how the chase went, the fact that it was quite a comfortable victory for the West Indies. But I talked about for the English bowlers, Willie, Jordan, and Curran not quite getting their lengths right, their lines right. Two guys like Chris Gale and Evan Lewis. The two stars for England were Liam Plunkett and Adil Rashid. They bowled beautifully, and I would say that Plunkett is England's premier fast bowler in this format, and Adil Rashid is their premier spinner. Not just this format, but also in the ODI format. These two have been doing a really good job for England since the last 50 over World Cup in 2015. Liam Plunkett has improved a lot. He's been around forever, it seems, Liam Plunkett, but we know he's quick, bowls 140 plus, and he's tall. He can generate a lot of bounce, but now he's improved a lot on his control and also his variety in his bowling. He doesn't just bang it into the pitch every ball. With that bounce he generates at that pace and bowling with good control, it's very difficult for the batsman to get away. The ball comes to them at an uncomfortable height and trajectory, much like Morne Morkel, for example. And the other thing is that he's also added some variation to his bowling. Plunkett bowls a really nice slower ball cutter. So I think he's got the full package as a one-day bowler, not just a wicket-taking option, but also someone who can be difficult to get away. So Liam Plunkett continues to do some good things for England in the limited overs format. Adil Rashid, we know, has been excellent for a few years now. And the thing about Adil Rashid is he knows exactly how to bowl in these types of conditions. Flat pitches you get in England, but the wrist spinner we know can overcome flat conditions. Rashid has improved on his control immensely. When he first came onto the scene, he would bowl a lot of half trackers, full tosses, but now his groupings are a lot tighter, and that googly is so dangerous from Rashid. He gets it to spin a mile, but he can also spin the stock delivery. So he's got his leg spinner and his wrong un, both capable of spinning. He bowls it at a good, quick pace, flat trajectory, which makes it difficult for the batsman to get underneath him. He's a class bowler in limited overs formats for England, and this was actually his best figures in 2020 internationals. And I forgot to mention that Chris Gale now is the first man to score 100 sixes in the 2020 international format. Truly one of the best to have ever played in this short format's history, Chris Gale. Now onto the English innings, and it started quite inauspiciously with Jason Roy being dismissed on the first ball of the innings. And for Jason Roy, we've seen his poor run throughout this summer cost him his place. Johnny Bairstow is going to get a chance to continue to try and cement his place as the opener in the ODI team. This comes on the back of Jason Roy, could not get a run against South Africa at the start of the summer, couldn't get a run in the Champions Trophy. He was dropped for the final in which Bairstow played as a pure batsman opening the batting, and he made 41, Johnny Bairstow. He didn't do too badly. And now in this game, after the test matches, there's been a break, but the same old story for Jason Roy, a golden duck for him. And he's looked fantastic in the last few summers for England, but this summer, completely different story. I think he's definitely suffered from a lack of confidence, that is for sure. He's looked so unsure of himself, just trying to survive. I think definitely mental block for him playing on his mind. But the other thing I would say is that his technical issues have been exposed. We've seen him particularly be threatened on the inside edge, get trapped LBW or bowled. He leaves quite a big gap between the bat and the pad, doesn't come down with a straight bat, and he plays across the line as well sometimes when he should be playing straight. So those little things have all caught up with Jason Roy. Add to that a little bit of bad luck. And I think it's the right decision from England at the end of the day. They've given him a lot of chances. He cannot get runs at the moment. give Johnny Bairstow a chance. I think that's a good thing. But Alex Hales was excellent. He is really been a quality player for England now for a number of years in the limited overs formats. And I believe that looking ahead to the Ashes, he's someone who could potentially play in that middle order if things don't go quite to plan. So I don't see why he shouldn't be at least in the squad, Alex Hales. But for England's batting, there wasn't too much to talk about. Joe Root struggled to get going. Owen Morgan continued his poor form in the format, if you remember. He couldn't score a run in the World T20 last year. England haven't played a great deal of 2020 cricket since then. Josh Butler, he tried to get things going, but again, that six hitting ability that we know he is so capable of, we didn't see that. Johnny Bairstow, he also tried to get things going. Not a usual suspect in the 2020 team, but he took his chance reasonably well. And 30 and 27 for those two, respectively, not quite enough. The run rate was starting to get very steep at that point, and they couldn't find the boundary enough, those two. Then the innings subsided. Rashid, Willie, Plunkett did hit a few fours, to be fair. Jordan, not much else to talk about. England bowled out for 155. I think the balance of the team was a little bit off, and that was pretty much all down to the fact that Ben Stokes and Moeen Ali were both rested from this one, so this wasn't quite a full strength England team, but you could use that same argument for the West Indies. Andre Russell's currently serving a suspension for his doping violation. And then you've got Dwayne Bravo and Darren Bravo, who it would appear would be available for selection in the next series for the West Indies. But really, that was the issue for England because they now didn't have a bowling option in the top six. They had to play five players who were primarily bowlers. That just shows the value of Stokes and Ali. But I'm looking at it and I was a bit surprised that David Malan didn't get a go. The last 2020 England played, he got 70 odd on debut. So that was quite surprising that David Malan didn't get another go. But that's it for England's batting. They just couldn't quite get going. The West Indies bowlers, Jerome Taylor, a little bit hit and miss, got a wicket with his first ball, but then started to stray, got hit around by Alex Hales. But it's good to see Jerome Taylor back in a West Indies uniform. Kesrick Williams, another one who's been excellent in the CPL. He has good variety to his bowling, and he picked up 3 wickets. He's certainly someone that the West Indies will look to groom in this format. Carlos Brathwaite, he picked up 3, tormenting England yet again, much like he did in the World T20 final last year. Now, Carlos Brathwaite is an interesting case. After that final, a lot of people thought he's going to become a star, but things have been anything but easy for him since that moment. He's now only a part of the 2020 setup, although, to be fair, he is the captain, but he's not in the ODI team, and he's not in the Test team. And for someone who has Carlos Brathwaite's potential, I'm disappointed to see that he hasn't quite kicked on. He's someone who has the raw talent, the physical talent particularly, but he hasn't quite refined his game enough. Hopefully he can get back on track, not get pigeonholed as just a T20 player, because I think he could be more than that for the West Indies. Sunil Narayan, we know that since his action has been remodeled, he hasn't been quite as potent as he was, but he's still a very good bowler in this format, very difficult to get away. Certainly a big addition to this West Indies team. Ashley Nurse isn't the most glamorous player, but he can do a job. He bowls serviceable off spin, although it's nothing special, and he can hit the ball as well a long way down the order. So he's a useful cricketer, a bit of a bits and pieces player, to be fair, but he can do a job certainly for this West Indies team. That's it from the game, I think, for the West Indies. They've got a very good 2020 team. It's certainly their best format. It's almost like the format was created for the West Indies. For England, not much you can read into it because 2 key players were out. It was just a one-off game. That's the issue with these one-off games. I don't understand why they play them. It's very difficult for teams to work on their combinations, to get closer to finding their best 11, to get any form or momentum going. That's what makes it very difficult to draw a lot of conclusions from these one-off 2020s. Joe Root struggled to get going. Doesn't mean he's a bad batsman. And likewise, someone like Kesrick Williams, he took 3 wickets. Doesn't mean he's an amazing bowler. It can go either way. in that sense, I think we need to take what happened with a pinch of salt. But now looking ahead to the ODIs, and there'll be 5 ODIs to wrap up the tour. A lot of changes to both squads. For the West Indies, Jason Holder comes back to captain the team. Shea Hope, Kyle Hope, Alzari Joseph, Devendra Bishu, Miguel Cummins, and Sunil Ambris, who has yet to play an international game for the West Indies. They are all coming into the squad, and Ronsford Beaton, Carlos Brathwaite, Sunil Narayan, Kieran Pollard, and Chadwick Walton, they are all leaving the squad. So a lot of changes for the West Indies. Their ODI team is basically a mix between their Test and 2020 team. Their 2020 team didn't have any players who played in the Test series. So that's quite interesting to see just how different the two 11s are. But the one day team certainly a bit more in the middle. For the West Indies, this series, they have a chance to qualify automatically for the World Cup in 2019, although it is a small chance. They have to win the series 4-0 because of that washout against Ireland. They didn't get the chance to win that game, so they have to hope for a washout here to win 4-0 or a tie, or they could win the series 5-0, but that would appear unlikely against a very good English ODI outfit in England. England, they have Moeen Ali, Ben Stokes coming back into the squad. Chris Wokes comes in as well. Liam Dawson, Chris Jordan, and David Malan, they drop out of the squad. For England, it's just about fine-tuning that ODI squad. It's been a settled unit since the World Cup in 2015, so just about fine-tuning that a little bit, particularly that spot at the top of the order. Can Johnny Bairstow cement his place there? Also, who's going to be that third seamer after Liam Plunkett and Jake Ball? Is it going to be Tom Curran? Is it going to be Chris Wokes? Those are a couple of questions that England need to answer, but the core of that squad is already there, and they've been an excellent ODI team since the 2015 World Cup. They've completely revamped their team, their style, playing a much more aggressive brand of cricket, and it's paying off greatly. They'll be disappointed that they didn't win their home ICC Champions Trophy this year. Obviously got spanked by Pakistan in the semi-final quite unexpectedly, and the issue with that was that they weren't able to adapt to the conditions. They've been used to playing on fantastic batting surfaces at home. Recently, that pitch was a lot slower and it was a lot more uneven in terms of the bounce and the pace, a little bit too paced. And they hadn't been used to that, and as such, they couldn't quite adapt in time. So maybe we could see some pitches like we saw in Cardiff. You can't expect to win global tournaments if you can only play on one type of surface or in one set of conditions. You need to be a little bit more adaptable and a little bit more versatile as a team unit. In terms of what I expect to see in this series, I expect England to win. I'm going to go for a 3-2 victory for England. I think West Indies have some weapons in their ODI team and they should be able to win a couple of games, but England are a very good unit at home. So I would expect them to just beat out the Windies. For the Windies, they just need to build a little bit of confidence. That outside chance of automatic qualification for the World Cup, that's great and all, but they need to start building a little bit of momentum in this format. Much like the Test format, they've struggled greatly in ODIs recently, and in all likelihood, they're going to have to play the World Cup qualifier. So I think the biggest thing is going to be getting all their pieces together for that tournament. Chris Gale, Marlon Samuels back in the mix now, and they'll be hoping in their next series that Darren Bravo comes into the mix, and sooner rather than later, guys like Dwayne Bravo and Andre Russell as well. The first ODI is today, Tuesday, the 19th of September. I'll have my review out for that game on Thursday. Let me know how you think this series will go. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, you can check it out. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. All those links can be found on the Twitter page. But until next time, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.